guys, welcome back. Last week was our first class and we did an introduction to the blending system. Then we did shade structure and where to put your colors on objects that will show contrast. And then we did bumps, pits, and holes. This week we're going to use the blending system to create depth and dimension. So you're going to get out a couple of things. We're going to be using the grapes picture. I recommend using the light colored grape. If you need to use the darker one, that's what it's there for. Some people don't have great eyesight, so use the dark one. But it's better to use the light one so that we can cover up the lines. The main page, and we're going to need the one with the two. This is very important this week. It wasn't as important last week, but it becomes very important this week. You have a couple of choices in the book. You're going to get out the color card Green Grape, but you really can use the color card Spirits. I have red grape. I think I have black grape in there too. It all works. It depends on what you want to do. But we're going to do green grapes. And after you pull the colors for green grapes, you're going to get out the analogous color for each one of those colors. So you're going to just go down the list and then go over to your analogous colors. And you're going to pick out, so one of the colors on green grapes is Kelly Green. You're going to get out A44. And you're going to look on the card for, and this is in your analogous list. You look on the card and you're going to look for the light and the dark color. Each one of the colors on your green grapes card is going to have two other colors associated with it. And you're going to have your three colors. So on my green grapes card, it has light umber. Your analogous cards say that umber has chestnut as your light and chocolate as your dark. I'm going to take my rubber bands. I use red for my medium, so that's my mid-tone. I use the blue for my dark, and that would be chocolate. And then I use my yellow for my light, just like that. So I have an immediate knowledge when I'm picking up the pencils, I won't get confused. I'm going to do that for all the colors that are on the green grapes. And when I get that set up, I'll be back. So I have my pencils set up now. So the 4 colors in the green grape now are 12 colors. And I'm ready to start. Last week we did the cherry. And I happen to have it right in front of me. And we had the 3 cherries. Well, I turned them into something else. But we have the 3 cherries with 3 objects. And we have 2 that sat behind the cherry. I didn't address that issue last week. We're going to be addressing it this week. And from now on, every week you're going to get a new skill. So today we're going to be doing objects that are on top of each other. And we're going to be putting objects going into the background. Now we need to find the layers in the grape. Now I want to show you that this is not just a concept for this picture. Here's from Summer Nights. This is by Hannah Carzone. And you could see on this picture, you've got flowers and leaves. You would do the same thing for the petals. This is even more complicated because you have flowers sitting on top of flowers. So this is where this lesson is going to really help you. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers on here. You're not going to make each layer a different color. You're going to make each layer a different tone. So you're kind of getting the idea that you're going to need at least 4. In this picture, I believe it's 4 tonal values. And you're going to assign it to your pencils. You're going to want to take out one of your grayscale practice pictures. You can do this on your prep picture, but it stays neater if you do it here. And I keep my grayscales. So we're going to take each layer, and there's 4 layers. So we're going to need 4 slots. So we have the light umber here, and I have my analogous colors. I'm going to put mid-tone, which is the light umber, into my 5 spot. You don't have to make it neat. Some of you might want to make it neat, but you're going to put your dark tone into your 10 spot, and my dark tone is the chocolate. Some people use 9. It just has to be on this side of the scale with enough room in between. And then I'm going to use my chestnut. It's not going to be 1. Chestnut is going to be around a 2. So now I have my tonal scale for this. And I'm going to continue doing this for all the colors. So you take, say, these 2 colors, which is the spring green and the chartreuse. Add a light layer of the lighter color. Now, if you were doing these, you would do it with these 2. These 2 would be over here. The darker tones, you're going to use your lighter color of these 2. And say I want to get 4 more tones in there, or test 4 tones. You don't have to necessarily have 4 tones, but I'm testing 4 tones. And I want to get 4 different tones on here. So now I'm going to take my darker one. This is darker than that. This has to be darker than this. Okay, this is darker than this. This is going to be my darkest. I didn't do it very dark when I originally put it down. Now I have to get a color that's in between there. Okay, so these don't have much contrast. So I can basically eliminate this one and this one. Now if you look at the contrast, you're looking from here to here, here, and there. And that has nice contrast. And you can play with it. So those are going to be my tones that I use for the picture. Now I'm going to get out my smaller picture. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 4 colors. Now, it doesn't have to be a blended color. This is just picking 4 tones. 1 will represent each layer. I have my lightest, I have my darkest, and 2, my mid-tone, and 1 that's in between. And I'm going to use my lightest one, and I'm going to map out where things are going to go. So this one, I'm just going to color in very quickly. This one has nothing on top of it. This has nothing on top of it. This one has nothing on top of it. And so on. So this is going to become my map. And I know these are the grapes that are going to be the lightest. Then I'm going to take my darkest tone. And I'm going to color in all the really recessed ones. The ones that are deep down, they would get the least amount of light. This is covered up by 5 of them, so this is going to be pretty dark. Okay, then I would go maybe to my second, and this is the ones that only have like 1 on top of it. It would be that one. This one has a little bit. I would probably do this one a little bit lighter, because there's going to be some cast shadow on it anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I'm going to map out this whole entire thing using these pencils. Now, it doesn't mean that the grapes are going to be exactly like this. The grapes are going to be the grapes. But you have your tonal values where it is. And this is going to get important once you are really into the picture and you're trying to figure out, well, where is something? This will tell you what layer it's on. So this is a very important step. The first pencil I'm going to use on the grapes is going to be my lightest dark color, and that's the chestnut. And what I'm going to look for is the areas that will be obscured by light. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. You can make this the background color of here, but I'm not doing a background on this picture, so I'm choosing a darker color. And I'll also be able to change my mind later on. But what this does is it kind of separates the grapes, and you can see the layers much easier. So I'm just looking for all the little areas that don't have grapes behind it. There's only a few of them. Okay, that's enough. The next thing I'm going to do is start working on my terminator lines. And if you don't know what a terminator line now is, in the book there is a video on how to dissect an object, and that's under your basic lighting. So I'm going to put in my terminator lines just so that I have an idea, and I can always go darker. And I chose to use the chartreuse because it's kind of like a mid-range color, and I can go lighter or darker on it. And this is bottom layer, so remember the bottom layers are very light and their colors can change later on, but it's part of roughing in. At the back of the last part of the book talks about the stages of art. So this is the first stage, and it's roughing it in. The next thing I'm going to start roughing in is my center light, and I'm going to use my lemon yellow for that, but I'm going to take down the tone eventually with some white. So I just want to apply where my center lights are going to be. Now that I have my center light and my terminator line roughed in at approximately where I want it, I'm going to look at my halftones. And my halftones are all those tones that you created. So I'm going to take my darkest light. You're going to look on your map that you created, and you're going to pick out all the ones that hit the light first. Those are the ones that aren't covered up, like this one, this one. This, for the most part, is not covered up. This one, all the full ones that are not covered up are the ones you're going to work on first. Always work light to dark, because you can always darken things up. You can't lighten things up. So I'm going to start to darken up edges. Now, my terminator line is going to be my darkest area. So I'm coloring over the light chartreuse. The blend will keep this whole entire thing lighter than some of the ones that are in the inside. And this just takes now patience. Slow, deliberate strokes. I'm leaving some room in here for a reflective shadow. Now I have my dark. I'm going to put this in all the recessed areas, and this is the darkest of the colors. And you see where it goes right in there? This is where these grapes would really be obscuring the light. Now remember, this is shade, not shadow. We're going to put cast shadows on this. So right in here would be very dark. I'm done with enough roughing in that I can start shaping the picture. I'm going to start working on my inner ones first. And the first color I'm going to be using on that is the yellow. Okay, people have tried to teach this to me. Drum roll, please. Ochre. Yellow ochre. So, I hate that word. It just doesn't come naturally to me. Not with my accent. But I'm going to start working on the inside. The lightest color for my second layer is going to be the yellow ochre. For all the ones on the inside, I'm going to darken up the center light because it would not be having the same amount of light as the outer ones. So I'm going to just look around for some of the internal ones. Now, if the center light is on the outside, great. It works. This is light. This would be light. This would be a little bit darker. And that's because it's going to have a pretty hefty cast shadow on it. This is going to go even darker, but I'm putting it in. Okay, this is going to be a little bit darker. We're going to have some light coming in here, but not much. Here, the same thing. This is light. See this there, the center light on here is out in the bright, so that's not. This one's going to be darker. I left space open for that. Remember, I haven't blended anything up. Even though this is on the outside, I'm going to do a half, because this is actually going to have a lot of cast shadow on it. See, I'm still at the point where I'm working out all the tones. Once I get all the tones done, then I will go back and I'll put in details and blend things up properly. So it's going to look a little weird now, but now why did I put the dark, my lightest dark on this one? Because it's towards the outside, so this is going to be lighter, but it's going to have a lot of cast shadow in there. So how light it's going to get, it's not going to get as bright as, say, this one. And it's kind of the same with this one. The outside will be lighter, but it's going to have a cast shadow from the leaf. I'll also be darkening up other things on here as well. This is like sort of out in the light, but it's still got a cast shadow on it. This area over here would be lighter and brighter. That's why I have the other color on it, because it's not as covered up. See how easy and beautiful this blends right into each other because they're analogous? Well, actually, these two just have the same undertones. And that's the beauty of the system, is no matter what you do, it just comes out right. Because all your undertones are matching. And you don't even have to think about it, because I've written it down already. That's part of the system is built into the book. It's almost like it's a calculator for colors. This transition is going to be seamless. You're not even going to physically notice it. It's going to just become part of the grape. I'm doing a little bit of blending on this one. It's going to be my dark. I have to go back with the green on it. Trying to get some of these behind areas that would have the cast shadow but needs the color. In here has to be darkened up. I missed that one. I love that moment of time where you get to at a picture and the illusion starts to happen. And that's around this time as I get my darks and my lights going with the tones stretched out. See how it's starting to fill out? Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on film doing this part because it's going to take me a while, because I want to spend time on the final details. I'm going to pencil switch up to the chocolate in my darkest areas, and I'm going to get the really deep recesses, which are really down in there. remember, is going to be your darkest color. And that's going to be on top of the Prussian, and that just changes its tone to darker. Almost getting things in there that would be void of light, but not black. Okay, now I'm going to go in with my lighter pencil on some of these areas and get more of the lights in. Now this one would hit right here, and I'm going to blend up my lightest colors. So I'm going to be working on basically the entire grape. So if I'm taking this and I'm going to examine this one grape, it's going to have a little bit of a shadow over here because this is coming down and touching it. Well, not this is shadowing it over here. So I've already laid the groundwork by adding in my darker colors. Up there, I've got the yellow ochre. So when I add my darker color, and I add the green, it's going to automatically come up a darker shade. Now, everything from the terminator line down must be darker than in here. So I'm going to just make sure that shadow line is there. Now I'm going to add actual shadow to it, but just not yet. And now for the first time I'm bringing in white to blend up some of these colors. Yeah, I was working on this one. Now the grape goes in slightly with the stem, so that's why I'm making it slightly darker going around the stem. Remember, we did pits and holes. Anything going in, you're going to make darker. And just like doing the sphere, my edges will be blended darker, so it gives it a rounder appearance. See, I have my blue on the pencil, so I know it's a darker shade. Get a little bit of a reflective shadow on it. It's going to become much more natural looking once I get the upper layers on it. I'm just on my first blend now. Okay, so for now, I wanna, let's get that shadow going. Okay, for this moment, I'm going to move on to the next one and move on to all of them. I'm gonna do the same thing for each one of these. Just remember, we haven't shadowed yet. See, so this one, I'm gonna look at this one. Right in here is where I missed. I'm going to get it nice and dark underneath here because these two grapes are really casting a lot of shadow on it. Now, because it's second layer, it's underneath other ones, my lightest is going to be my darkest yellow. And then I'm going to put the green back in with some of my darker greens, and that's the spring green. Make sure everything on the bottom where it doesn't hit the light is darker. Everything south of the terminator line has to be darker than above the line. So even the lightest area down here has to be darker than the darkest area up here. All of these pencils blend really nicely with each other because all you got the same undertones going, and if it's not the same undertone, it's an undertone that will blend in nicely. You only have those really bad, ugly colors popping up where you don't expect it when your undertones are not good. They're not a match. I'm going to hit it with my white in a minute to blend it. You can use a little bit of mineral spirits to help it along, or a blending pen. I might do that later on. Okay, I'm going to finish up because this is going to get to be a very, very long video. I'm going to do this to all of these, and then we're going to add our shadows in. I'm letting you check in on the progress. I also want to add the color sepia. Sepia is going to be our cast shadow color, and because now the reasons why I'm going to use sepia is because gray does not color gray does not blend well with yellow, and there's a lot of yellow in this picture. So if I use sepia first, I get like a buffer between the yellow and the grays. When I do switch over to my grays for the shadows, I'm going to use the warm grays, which are better than the blue grays. Blue grays would dull down this picture because this picture is so warm, and I want to keep it very warm. So I'll let you see what happens when I add the sepia. Let me find a good one in here. See, it blends in with the yellow undertones in the green and the actual yellow on the paper much nicer than pure gray would. And as I said, if I need a darker color, I can always go over the sepia with the gray. This is where I'm up to right now. And while there's wax on the paper, I want you to take a look at the reference photo again. And I'm putting up one that is really up close. Look at the level of detail in the shading on each grape. That makes the difference between your picture looking like a picture and your picture looking realistic. It's the level of detail. So now we're back to my picture right now where I'm up to. I've got my wax and I've got a lot of the shading that's in there, my tonal values. Now I want to make it smooth and I want to get the details in. The problem is that I ran out of tooth on the paper, and I very rarely use this, but I did with this in this case. I got out my texture fixative. This one happens to be by Brush and Pencil. It's not cheap. That's all I could say. It's not cheap. I bought it long ago. On the flip side of it, I very rarely use it, and I've got 90% of it still in the can, and it's been well over a year since I bought it. When using this, make sure that your nozzle is cleared. I ran mine under some hot water and then really washed it out, so you get a very even spray. And what I did was I waited 15 minutes and I gave it a second coat. It will curl the paper ever so slightly. If you tape your paper down during the drying process, it won't be as bad. For me, it's a little bit, it's not much. When I put this into a book, it will flatten out. This is my original artwork, so I'm going to keep this picture, of course. I also like the way it's coming out. So I've got a nice fresh coat of tooth, and I'm ready to start my upper layers and my details. Now, if you look on here, this one is almost done. I still have a little bit of details to do on it, but you can see a big difference between this and, say, this one or this one, where these are obviously not worked on as much as I did this one. So my recommendation to you is, if you are a beginner and you say, I'm done, work on it for another hour so that you are 100% happy with each and every grape. And at the end, you're going to be happy with the general picture. In addition to this, the leaf, I'm not going to do in this video. The video is just too long. I'm going to be handling leaves in another video. Don't worry about the leaf for now. Either leave it blank or do it if you want, but we will be handling leaves completely separate. If you take a long hard look at the shading on the grapes, you will notice that they have little brown flecks. And there's actually a lot of them. And every grape has that white going around the side. Now, I don't know if it's the way the camera picks up the peel, but every grape in multiple pictures that I've looked at has that. So I'm going to make sure that I'm including including it. And because I have nice tooth on the paper now, it pops up really easily. If by now you've covered over that area with pencil, which is pretty common, you can take your electric eraser and remove some of that pencil, and you'll get down to the paper again and you'll be able to put in the white. So don't fret if you didn't include that. You can add it in. So I'm going to go back to working on this for another couple of hours at least. If there's anything I need to teach you that's different, I will come back. See, the more I work on it, this one's starting to look much better too. Okay, just keep your strokes deliberate. I'm getting towards the end. It's not completely done. I still have some work to do on the upper area. But the one tone that I stayed away from the entire picture was black. Remember the occlusive shadows? The shadow where one object touches another, and that shadow blocks out all light. I've reserved my black pencil for that area, and I'm going to use it very sparingly, because black, when it's used too much, flattens a picture. When black is used just the right amount, it brings a picture to life. In very small areas, right where objects hit each other, I'm going to add a little bit of black. The pencil I'm using is Holbein, but you can use any really sharp black pencil. You see what just a little bit does? It really makes those layers stick out. And this can take me a while to do all the areas. What I've decided to do, because there was so much on here to teach you, I'm going to do a full grape in another video. One full grape, start to finish, slowly. So I'm going to show you in hyperlapse. I'm going to go over this in the black, and then I'm going to add a little bit more white to it, and we'll call it at the end. I'm going to add some cast shadows to it so you could see the difference. Now I'm using a 90% warm gray. And wherever, okay, this is on top of here, okay? So there's going to be a cast shadow right underneath. Okay? This is on top of this. So you'll have a cast shadow on that. This is on top of this. So this would be a cast right underneath. Now in the photo that I have, it looks like the photographer washed out his cast shadows. That's, you know, just photo editing, and but in reality there is cast shadow there. Okay, this one's nice and deep. These are deeper than these, so your cast shadow goes on this one, and this is almost completely in cast. So it would be casting from this and casting in from these other ones. Takes a long time, but it's the cast shadows that are going to make it three-dimensional. Now this one's on top of this one. And it seems that even this one in here is on top of this one, but it juts out, so out here would be light, while right in here would be dark. And you see how the more I'm working on it and the more I'm adding as far as my tones, the more to life this picture is becoming. Now this is on top of that one, but it's not dark enough. And the closer it gets to that occlusive shadow, which is that one that hits it and blocks out all light, you do a gradient from there. So in there, my occlusive shadow is right underneath, and then I cast out from there, lighter. And I can use a little bit more in there with the black. Right just in the darkest area. So this could take hours and hours to do. Now, as we get closer to the leaf, there's going to be all sorts of cast shadows in here from the leaf coming down, and that's a pretty hard structure. Until I do that leaf, I don't want to do too much in there because I don't want to make it too dark. See, right in here it's the wrong tone. Got to keep checking because this tone in here has to be darker than the ones on top, but I really haven't worked on the top area that much. I've kind of been, you could tell, I've been concentrating in this area over here. And these are not as done. See, this guy is way in there, but it's still on top of this guy. So this guy is way in the back, because you can tell the way the line is. So I'm going to darken up over here and have it come very light. But this is still very light. See, look in this area. It's like perfect in here, my shading. It just takes time. That's why I said earlier that if you're new, a lot of people are afraid to keep going longer. Oh, it's taken so long. Art takes a long time. Colored pencil is the slowest medium that there is. There are artists that will work months on just one picture. So this is on top of this. So there should be an occlusive shadow right there to bring it out. And then we'll just take it out with some, spread it out with some French gray. I also need a lot more detail on it. I don't have a lot of the dots that should be on it on there yet. This one's got too much Prussian in it. Let me see. This is on top of it. Get my occlusive shadow. Bring it down. I'm going to dull down some of that Prussian green. And it's got a stem, so I'm going to put a little bit of black underneath the stem. Okay, it's becoming more and more realistic. The more hours you put into it, the more it happens. And this is my center light. Remember, we haven't put on any highlights yet. A little bit of light snuck in there, giving it a little shine. Okay, if you're a little bit confused about the colors and stuff that I'm using and some of the things that I've been talking about, there are 6 other videos in the book that I did that will help bring this and your understanding of what I'm talking about. You can get the book with all the pictures, the sketches on my Etsy site. I left it. The URL is in the description. And our video lessons are once a week. It's getting there. I'm liking this more and more. Okay, this is peeping out from underneath this leaf. So I'll lighten it up until the leaf gets done. So just remember, we're doing card Green Grape and the analogous colors that go along with it. See how I only put a little bit on and then I step back and look at it? And sometimes you even have to walk away from it to judge it properly. After a while, your eyes can... Oh, popped. Your eyes can start playing tricks on you. This one's nice and out in the light. Okay, well, I'm going to stop until I get that area up there done. Now I'm going to just use a gummy eraser and clean it up a bit. The unfortunate thing with YouTube is that I can't use something under my hand. You guys should be using paper underneath your hand. But if I do that, I block out the picture. And I get complaints that you can't see the picture. And this is a gummy eraser. It just helps to clean things up. Okay. I will see you in my next video. Take care.